Hi everyone, good day to all. So in our series of presentation, so far we have been discussed about absorption and followed by the second aspect about distribution has been discussed in the previous classes. So in the previous classes we have discussed about what is distribution, the factors which has been influencing the distribution, and among the factors we have discussed about tissue permeability of drug, under which we have covered the physicochemical property of the drug as well as the physiological barrier. So let's continue to the today's session. So the contents what we are going to cover in today's session are the remaining factors. So as we have covered the tissue permeability of drug in the previous presentation, so today we are going to cover the remaining factors which is affecting the drug distribution. Among them, we are going to cover three topics. One is organ or tissue size and perfusion rate. The next is binding of drug to tissue components, and the next is miscellaneous factors. So upon completion of the factors of distribution, we are going to discuss about the volume of distribution or the apparent volume of distribution. Well, regarding the organ tissue size and the perfusion rate. Distribution is permeability rate limited in some cases, such as when the drug is ionic or polar or water soluble. Similarly, when there is a highly selective physiological barrier, there will be a restriction in diffusion of drug inside the cell, such as blood-brain barrier. It allows only a highly lipophilic drug. So these are the two conditions where the permeability will be a rate limited process. And distribution will be perfusion rate limited in some conditions, such as when a drug is highly lipophilic and when the membrane is highly permeable. So in this condition, the drug will be facing distribution as a perfusion rate limited conditions. Well, what is perfusion rate? Perfusion rate is defined as the volume of blood that flows per unit time per unit volume of the tissue, that is ml per minute per ml. So how much amount of blood is getting transferred to the tissue at a particular time. So that's what a perfusion rate is. And it can be derived by a formula if Kt by V is tissue or blood partition coefficient of a drug, then the first order distribution rate constant will be derived by this formula. So Kt is equal to perfusion rate divided by Kt by B. So the tissue distribution half-life can be written as 0.693 divided by Kt, and it can be substituted with the above equation as 0.693 Kt by B by perfusion rate. So we can substitute and we can find out the thing. So here saying about it, the extent to which the drug is distributing in particular tissue or organ mainly depend upon the size of the tissue, that is the tissue volume, and the tissue or blood partition coefficient of the drug. So that is what the major concern which has been involved in this. Well, so here we are going to discuss about the rate or relative volume of different organs, its blood flow and its perfusion rate under a basic condition, assuming that the total body volume is 70 liters. So the total body organs of the tissue has been classified into three different based on its perfusion rate. One is highly perfused, another is moderately perfused, the last one is poorly perfused. So this table clearly says that how does the blood flow will be varies from organ to organ or from tissue to tissue. So under the highly perfused category, we have lungs, kidney, adrenals, liver, heart and brain. So these are the vital organs, and maximum quantity of blood will be getting circulated to these organs. So the total percentage of body volume will be reaching to these proportions of various organs. And the next column is about blood flow. So where the lungs receives the maximum blood flow among all the other organs which has been present in the body, it receives around 5000 ml per minute, and the cardiac output also will be quite higher in case of lungs. Similarly, the perfusion rate also will be quite higher than among all the organs. Well, now you can find the major differences between the high perfused tissue and the moderately perfused tissue, followed by the very low percentage of distribution of blood as well as the perfusion rate or volume in aspect of cardiac output. In all these aspects, you will be able to identify major differentiation. In case of moderately perfused tissue, the volume blood flow will be quite less in case of muscle, because the percentage of body volume in muscle will be is 42 percentage, but to that 42 percentage the blood flow is around 1000 ml per minute, and the cardiac output is also quite lesser. The perfusion rate, if you are comparing to the lungs, it is too low. For muscles, the perfusion rate is 0.034, whereas in case of lungs it is 10.2. And coming to the last one, perfusion which is having very poor in case of fats and bones, the perfusion rate will be 10 times lesser to than that of the moderately perfused condition. So 0.03, the perfusion rate will be for poorly perfused molecules. The next about saying then in the organ tissue or perfusion rate is the highly lipophilic drug can selectively cross the blood-brain barrier. Example is thiopental. And high permeable capillary walls, highly permeable capillary walls permits passage of almost all drugs except those bound to the plasma protein. So a drug which bound to the plasma protein can, due to its size, it cannot cross over, or else in other cases all the uh, high permeable drugs or lipophilic drugs can easily cross through the membrane, cell wall membrane. So highly perfusion tissues such as lungs, kidney, liver, heart, brain are rapidly equilibrated with the lipid soluble drugs. The drug is distributed in a particular tissue or organ. It mainly depends on the size of the tissue and tissue or blood partition coefficient. So this is the major driving force. Example, thiopental IV. So in case of IV administration of thiopental, it's a highly lipophilic drug, and high tissue or blood partition coefficient have towards the brain and adipose tissue. So that is what the nature of thiopental is. It possesses high lipophilicity, also possesses better tissue blood partition coefficient towards brain and adipose tissues. But in brain, in case of thiopental, the brain is highly perfused organ, so drug is distributed faster and shows rapid onset of action than the poorly perfused adipose tissue. So the same thiopental, having a better lipophilicity and having a better blood partition coefficient through brain and adipose tissue, even then there is a small difference in characterization or movement of drug in brain as well as the adipose tissues. So binding of drug to the blood and other tissue components. So in this condition, we are moving to the next topic. So next factor, saying about next factor. So the binding of drug to the blood components are here. The drug may bind to blood cells or it may bind to the plasma protein. Also, the drug have a chance to bind with extravascular tissues. So protein binding of drugs. Let's discuss about it first. So what is protein binding of drugs? A drug in the body can interact with several tissue components, of which there are two major categories. One is blood as well as extravascular tissue. So there is no any limitation to the drug. It can bind to any components towards its affinity. So it majorly it shows a binding with some of the components present in blood and extravascular tissues. So the interacting molecules are generally macromolecules such as protein, DNA, or adipose tissue. So if a drug is been binding or interacting with a protein, we say the phenomenon of complex formation with protein as a protein binding of drugs. So that is what a drug binding to a protein is called as a protein binding of drugs. As we discussed earlier, the drug which bind to proteins will be having size somewhat bigger. So due to its bigger size, drug cannot get penetrate through the membrane and cannot reach the tissues or cells. So in order to make the drug utilize to the cells, the binding of drug to the protein has to be detached. And saying emphasized manner that binding of drug to protein is a reversible complex. So based upon the affinity or duration of affinity, the time of bonding between the drug and the protein will be varying. A drug which have poor binding will be detaching soon. A drug which have good affinity will be detaching quite later. Well, this protein binding is interrelated to another concept related to the drug releases. Higher the protein binding, slower will be the release. Means in case of a high binding drug molecule, it possesses automatically a sustained release or a controlled release pattern. So this is an additional information related to the protein drug binding. So the importance of such binding derives from the fact that the bound drug is both pharmacokinetically as well as pharmacodynamically inert. Means it cannot undergo metabolism or it cannot get excreted away and it cannot shows any pharmacological activity. So that is what the condition of a protein. It's an inert. It remains inert. It will be circulating within the body. Drug won't get deactivated. Drug will be active, but it can exhibit its activity only if the bonding between the protein gets detached. Well, so until that it remains inert, it doesn't get eliminated away from the body, it doesn't show any pharmacological activity, it also can't able to metabolize. So this is what about the protein binding of drug. So a bound drug is also restricted since it remains confined to a particular tissue for which it has a greater affinity. So that is another important thing which to be considered in the protein binding of drugs. So these drugs which has been bounded, because of its enormous size, it cannot undergo membrane transportation and thus the half-life increased. So that's what I said quite a few minutes back. When the half-life is getting enhanced, automatically the drug will be getting its lifetime longer. So the drug presence within the body will be extending, which obviously supports for a sustained or a controlled release pattern. Well, this diagram gives an idea about the binding of drugs to various tissue components and its influence on disposition and clinical responses. So there are some chances that the unbound drug moves reversibly between the components. There is a condition that unbound drugs can move from one compartment to another compartment. That's what we call it as a distribution is also. Well, so let's know what are the various transportation or distribution process takes place between an unbound drug and a bound drug within the body. So let's focus on the center one first. The blood. In blood, the drug binding to the blood components. So the drug may bind to blood cells or the drug may bind to protein. Upon reaching the blood, the free drug in the plasma can bind to either the blood cells or to the protein cells. So also the unbound drug, as we said earlier, the unbound drug have a tendency to get either distribute to liver or to the tissue. So let's discuss with the clockwise direction. From the free drug, there is a chances to get distributed to the tissue. So upon distribution, the drug may get bound to the tissue localized area, or it may bound to some receptor. By bonding to the receptor, it may possess a pharmacological activity, and upon showing its activity, it may get converted into a metabolite. So that is one condition. Even in some cases, there is a chances of the unbound drug or the drug which is not shown any action, or which is not been utilized, can be again come back to the blood. So that's what the arrow mark which denotes from blood to the tissue as a reversible arrow mark. The free drug can move from blood to tissue. Also, it can come back from the tissue to the blood. So the next part in the clockwise direction is saying the proportion in the kidney. So the once the drug get utilized, and if it been converted into metabolite, there is a chances of drug or metabolite to move to the kidney. So the free drug which has been present in the blood have a chance to move to kidney, and in the kidney it may get bound to a carrier, and that carrier complex of drug will be getting actively secreted in the nephron, and it may get excreted in the urine. So this is one path of fatal of drug. And some condition, there is a chances of drug to bound in protein which is present in the renal tissues also. So as we discussed in tissue localization, the drug bounds to the protein which is present in the tissue. Similarly, here there is a chances of binding of drug to the renal tissue proteins. And the next part is liver. So the drug which bound or drug which found unbound, sorry, the drug which found unbound will be distributed to the liver, and in liver, as similar to the previous two condition, there is a chances of drug or metabolite to get bound to the liver tissue protein. So that is also, as we said, all the protein drug complex are reversible, and some condition the drug may get active deactivated or get converted into metabolite due to enzymatic activation, and upon enzymatic activation the metabolites get excreted through the biliary secretion, or it may get excreted through urine. So this is what the process of drug as well as binding of protein, and in various areas such as blood, tissues, kidney and liver. Well, let's know what is the type of binding does it undergoes. So the binding of drug to protein is generally a reversible, and sometimes it is irreversible. In case of reversible, it majorly undergoes a weak chemical bonding such as hydrogen bond, hydrophobic bond, ionic bond and van der Waals forces. So these are all the possible reversible binding found in a plasma protein. Similarly, irreversible binding that are rare and may arise due to the covalent bonding, and is often a reason of carcinogenicity or a tissue toxicity of the drug. So that is what the difference between reversible and irreversible. So always the reversible is safe. It is a temporary bonding between the drug and the protein, whereas in case of irreversible, once if it bonded, it may leads to carcinogenic, or it may leads to cell death of the particular tissue to which the drug has been got bounded. So that is quite dangerous. So always tissue permeability compared to protein bounding is dangerous. It's or else in other way, irreversible bounding of an external or a exogenous compound to the body component is quite always dangerous. So that should not be happen also. If any condition, if it has been found such, that has to be completely eliminated, or it has an alternate has to be found to it. So bounding of drug to the blood components, continuation of it, there are several other components which has been discussed. So first thing, plasma protein drug binding. So the extent or the order of binding varies from in the following orders. There will be higher affinity in albumin, followed by alpha 1 acid glycoprotein, followed by lipoprotein and globulins. So generally, the binding of drug involves to various parts of the blood components such as human serum, albumin, alpha-1 glycoprotein, lipoproteins and globulins. So that is what the condition and the order which has been said in the earlier stage. So this is what a tabular column which clearly shows us what is the blood protein binding affinity to the drug. So mostly most of the protein will be getting bound to albumin. The human serum albumin governs a lot. So here almost the molecular weight it possesses a molecular weight around 65,000 and the concentration in the blood will be 3.5 to 5 grams percentage, and the drug, all type of drug, large varieties of drug can bound to HSA. The next is alpha 1 acid glycoprotein. It has a percentage of around 0.04 to 0.1, and basic drugs such as imipramine bound to alpha 1 acid glycoprotein. Followed by lipoprotein, basic lipophilic drug like chlorpromazine which bound to this lipoprotein. And the next is about alpha 1 globulin, alpha 2 globulin. Respectively, it bonds to steroids or vitamins. And the last is about hemoglobin. So these hemoglobin, mostly phenytoin, phenobarbital, phenothiazine, these derivatives of drugs will get bound to hemoglobin. So bonding of drug to the blood components as its continuation, the bonding of drug to HSA. So in case of HSA, it has a higher molecular weight as we discussed previously. The therapeutic dose of most of the drug are relatively much smaller and their plasma concentration do not normally reach the equimolar concentration with the HSA. Means the concentration of albumin will be huge, thereby the drug whatever we are taking in may not saturate the quantity of HSA. The HSA can bound to several compounds having varied structure, both endogenous compounds such as fatty acid, bilirubin and tryptophan, as well as drug which bound to HSA. And a wide variety of drugs from weak acid, neutral compounds to weak base also bind to HSA. So there is a binding sites which has been found in HSA. Those are 4 different sites which has been found in human serum albumin. The first site is called as warfarin and azopropazone binding site. It represents the region which has a large number of drug to bound to it. Examples: NSAIDs, sulfonamides, phenytoin, sodium valproate, bilirubin. So most of the component will be getting binding to the first site. Site 2 is also called as a diazepam binding site. Drugs which bind to this region includes benzodiazepines and medium chain fatty acids, ibuprofen, ketoprofen, tryptophan, cloxacillin, probenecid, many of this. And mostly saying about it, the site 1 and site 2 accommodates more number of drugs. Large varieties of drugs will be binding to site 1 and 2 compared to the site 3 and 4. Well, what is site 3? So site 3 is nothing but digitoxin binding site. So site 3 covers digitoxin binding site. The site 4 is also called as tamoxifen binding site. So compared to that of the site 1 and site 2, very few drugs only get bound to the site 3 and 4. Well, so there are 4 different binding sites as we discussed so far. This binding of drug, so a drug can bind to more than one site, in which case the main binding site is called as a primary site and the other is called as a secondary site. So four different sites. It's not mandatory that a drug has to bind only to the particular site. Based upon its affinity or binding capacity or binding tendency, it may bound to either one site or to the alternate sites also. But however, a drug may have better affinity to a particular site that we call it as a primary site, and the second least to it we call it as a secondary site. So site 1 is a primary site for dicumarol, and site 2 is its secondary site. It have a binding tendency to both the sites. So among this, the site 1 will be the primary site for that drug. So the group of drug that bind to the same site will be competing to each other for binding. So sometimes uh, when you are taking 2 or 3 medications, the all the medicaments may have a tendency to bind only to a particular site. So during such condition, there will be chances of competition among it, and the drug may bind to one site, do not competitively inhibit the binding of drug to the other site. So that is what taking place, and they may promote or retard the binding to another site by energetic coupling mechanism. So this we call it as a competitive inhibition or competitive binding. So one drug will be having a competition of binding with the other drug to the same site. Well, binding of drugs to the blood component. The second next one is binding of drug to alpha 1 acid glycoprotein. It can be called as AAG or alpha 1 AGP. So it's also called as orosomucoids, and it has a molecular weight of 44,000 and plasma concentration ranging from 0.04 to 0.1 gram percentage. It binds mostly to the drugs like imipramine, amitriptyline, nortriptyline, lidocaine, propranolol, quinidine, and disomeprazole. So in case of drug binding to lipoprotein, binding of drug to human serum albumin and AAG, alpha acid glycoprotein, involves hydrophobic bonds. Since only lipophilic drugs can undergo hydrophobic bond, lipoprotein can also bind to such drugs because of their high lipid content. But the plasma concentration of lipoprotein is less in comparison to that of the HSA and AAG. So a drug that binds to lipoprotein does should be dissolving in core of protein, and thus its capacity to bind depends upon its content. The molecular weight of lipoprotein varies from 2 lakhs to 34 lakhs depending upon the chemical composition. So they are classified based upon their density. So you might be knowing well there are 4 types of lipoprotein. One is chylomicrons, another is VLDL, very low density lipoprotein, low density lipoprotein, and high density lipoprotein, HDL we commonly call it as. Well, in lipoprotein, the lipid core of the macromolecule consists of triglycerides and cholesterol esters, and the outside is made up of apoproteins such as free cholesterols and protein. So the binding of drug to lipoprotein is non-competitive, as in case of the previous one. We have a competition of site 1, site 2, site 3, site 4. Drug may get competitive among each other, but here there is no chance of competition. So a number of acidic drug, neutral drug, basic drug can bound to lipoprotein. So the basic lipophilic drugs have relatively more affinity than that of the acidic or other type of drugs. So a drug which is basic and lipophilic nature will have a better affinity to lipoprotein. So lipoprotein binding becomes significant in some cases where it is predominantly binding to them, and secondly when the level of HSA and AGG is been getting reduced. So that is what the binding tendencies of when if the AAG or HSA got saturated, or there might be some condition where we have a lack of proteins in the body, such as a lack of availability. In such conditions, either due to lack of availability or lack of binding tendency or binding nature or saturation, in simply saying about saturation. So these conditions, the drug binding to the lipoprotein will be the second alternate. Well, the next one of binding of drug to the blood component is globulin. So in case of globulin, there are five types: alpha 1 globulin, alpha 2 globulin, beta 1, beta 2, and gamma. So alpha 1 is also called as transcortin or corticosteroid binding globulin. So steroidal drug thyroxine, cyanocobalamin, these bound to alpha 1 globulin. Alpha 2 globulin is also called as ceruloplasmin. Vitamin A, D, E, K generally bound to this alpha 2 globulin. And beta 1 globulin is also called as transferrin, ferrous ions bound to this globulin. And beta 2 is carotenoid drugs bound to it, similarly antigen bound to gamma globulin. Well, the next is about binding of drugs to blood cells. The 40% of blood, it comprises of blood cells. Among it, majority is RBC, and this RBC is 500 times more in diameter to that of the HSA or albumin. So in case of albumin, as we discussed previously, it's very huge in quantity. Saturation is very uncommon in that condition of binding. Even though compared to HSC, due to its abundance presence, this RBC poses a major binding conditions. So RBC components that bind to drugs are hemoglobin, carbonic anhydrase, as well as the cell membrane. So hemoglobin is 7 to 8 times concentration in higher than that of albumin, and it binds to phenytoin, phenobarbital, phenothiazine. Case of carbonic anhydrase, another blood RBC component, it bonds to acetylcholamide, chlorothalidone, and cell membrane bonds to imipramine and chlorpromazine. So these three components in RBCs have the tendency to bound with the drugs. Well, the next topic is about tissue binding of drug or tissue localization of drug. So tissue drug binding is important in distribution from 2 point views. One is increasing in apparent volume of distribution of drug, which is possible in tissue binding, whereas it is not increasing, it will be decreasing in case of plasma protein binding. So that increasing in apparent volume of distribution is due to the ratio of amount of drug in the body to the plasma drug concentration of a free drug. The second thing is about the tissue drug binding results in localization of drug at a specific site in the body. So thereby it subsequently increases the half-life. It makes a drug to be alive in a inert manner. So there are some conditions where number of drugs bind irreversibly with the tissues. So contrast to the plasma protein where it is reversible bonding. Of examples are oxidation product of paracetamol, phenacetin, chloroform, carbon tetrachloride, and bromobenzene, which bounds covalently to the hepatic tissues. So factors which influencing the localization of drug in tissue includes lipophilicity and structural features of the drug, perfusion rate, pH differences, etc. Extensive tissue drug binding suggests that the tissue cannot act as a storage site of the drug. So it's not a storage site, it cannot bound. So that may leads to toxicity, and the drug that bounds to both the tissue and the plasma component results in competition between the drug binding sites. That's a common factor. Based upon the affinity, the binding differs. For majority of the drug that binds to extravascular tissue, the orders are liver, kidney, lungs, muscles. So highly the drug may bound in case of in the organ of liver, then followed by kidney, then lungs, and finally to the muscles. So now let's see some examples of extravascular tissue bounding. So in case of liver, the irreversible binding of epoxide of halogenated hydrocarbon and paracetamol is found, which may lead to hepatotoxicity. And in case of lungs, drugs like imipramine, chlorpromazine, and antihistamine may get bound and get accumulated in lungs. And in kidney, metallothione protein bound to heavy metals and results in a renal accumulation leading to toxicity. So that is what the major condition which is found in kidney. And in case of skin, chloroquine and phenothiazine accumulates in skin by interacting with the melanin. And in case of eye, the retinal pigments of the eye also contains melanin. So binding of chloroquine and phenothiazine to its responsible for the retinopathy. So that is what the cause of retinopathy. And in case of HAS, arsenals or arsenics, chloroquine, phenothiazines are reportedly deposited in the shaft of the HAS, which may have an impairment. And in case of bones, tetracycline is a well-known example that bind to the bone and teeth. Administration of this antibiotic in infants or children due to odontogenesis results in permanent brown yellow discoloration of teeth. So that is one important thing which is found in tetracycline. Also, lead is known to replace the calcium from the bones and causes their brittleness. So bone brittleness may be caused due to the replacement of calcium by lead. The next is about fats. Lipophilic drugs such as thiopental and pesticides like DDT accumulates in the adipose tissue by partitioning into it. But high oil in water partition coefficient is not only the criteria for adipose distribution of drug, since several high lipophilic drug or basic drug like imipramine, chlorpromazine are not localized in the fat. So that is not a factor. So highly oil water lipophilicity or partition coefficient that supports for binding, it doesn't means like that. There are some reports that states that adipose localization of drug is resulting of binding component between the adipose tissue and the non-adipose tissue such as muscles, skins or all these things, and non-partitioning also. So this is what about the fats. And the last is about nucleic acid. So molecular components of cells such as DNA interact strongly with the drugs like chloroquine and quinacerin, resulting in the distortion of double helical structure. So it may affect the double helical structure and it may obviously affect its activity, impair the DNA and obviously affect the activity of the DNA. Well, let's move on to the next factor, miscellaneous factor. So saying about miscellaneous factor, the first is about age. So difference in distribution pattern is mainly found due to the total body water, which will be greater in infants, and fat content, which will be highly in infants and elderly patient, and skeletal muscle, which will be less in infants and elderly patients. And organ composition, the blood-brain barrier development will be poor in the case of infants, and myelin content is low, and CSF the cerebral blood flow is high, and hence a greater penetration of drug will be in brain. So this is what in case of age factor is off. Also, the plasma protein content will be low albumin in case of infants and elderly. So low albumin will be found, so the plasma protein content will be lesser. So binding will be getting quite varied. The next is about pregnancy condition. So during pregnancy, due to the growth of uterus, placenta and fetus, there will be a increasing in volume available for drug distribution, and the fetus has separate compartment for drug distribution. Plasma and ECF volume also will be increasing, but the albumin content will be quite low. The next is about obesity. So in case of the obese person will be having high adipose tissue or fatty acids tissue. So high distribution of lipophilic drug will be found in case of obese patient. The next factor is diet. A high fatty diet will increase free fatty acid level in circulation, thereby it affects the binding of acidic drug. In case of diseased state, the mechanism involved in altering of drug distribution in disease state or altered albumin or other drug binding protein concentration. So due to some reason in disease condition, there might be chances of low albumin present. So in such condition, the binding of drug to albumin will be getting saturated. So that will be a factor. Also altered or reduced perfusion to organ or tissue due to any condition, either hypotension or low blood transportation to the organ. The drug permeation or perfusion rate will be vary from organ to organ. That will be affecting the drug distribution. Alteration of pH, obviously, it converts as it interrelated with the pH partition coefficient as well as the pKa. Drug may get converted to acidic or alkaline, which may affect the drug distribution parameters. The next is about alteration of permeability or physiological barrier. So as we discussed in BBB, several approaches have been on. One is about osmotic disruption. Similarly, there might be chances of any disturbance in the blood-brain barrier, thereby it may temporarily lose its action of penetrating the drug, vice versa. So blood-brain barrier, saying about it, the meningitis or encephalitis. So here the BBB became more permeable to polar antibiotic ampicillin, penicillin G, and patient affects with CCF. The perfusion rate to the entire body decreases. It affects the distribution. The last is about drug interaction. So displacement interaction occurs when two drugs administered which have same or similar binding site affinity. Example, warfarin. So this displaces the phenylbutazone to the HSA. So both are having binding to the same site, whereas the warfarin is a displaced drug and the phenylbutazone is a displacer. Well, let's move on to the next content of today's presentation, apparent volume of distribution. So a drug in circulation distributes to various organs and tissues. When the process of distribution is complete or when it's get equilibrated, the different organs and tissues contain various concentration of drugs which can be determined by the volume of tissue in which the drug is present. So saying this, different tissues have different concentration of drug. The volume of distribution cannot be truly physiological in many aspects. So the existence of a constant relationship between the concentration of drug and the amount of drug will be remaining. So that can be mentioned as X is proportional to C, where X is nothing but the amount of drug and C is the concentration of the drug in plasma. Or this can be rewritten as X is equal to VDC, where VD is proportionally constant having the unit of volume and popularly known as apparent volume of distribution. This VD is nothing but apparent volume of distribution. So it is defined as the hypothetical volume of a body fluid into which a drug is dissolved or distributed. So it is called apparent volume. Because all the parts of the body will be equilibrated with the drug do not have equal concentration. So that is what in this condition. So here VD, apparent volume of distribution, can be written as amount of drug in the body by plasma drug concentration. VD is equal to X by C, amount of drug in the body by plasma drug concentration. So it mainly depends upon the concentration of drug in the plasma. So drugs with large apparent volume are more concentrated in extravascular tissue and less concentrated in intravascular tissue. Well, we can able to determine the extravascular fluid volume or plasma volume by approaches. So those are the plasma volume can be determined by use of substances of high molecular weight or substances that are totally bonding to the plasma albumin, such as using some dyes as mentioned here. Also, when given through IV route, they remains confined to the plasma, and the total body volume can be determined even in case of hemocratic is known. So the extravascular fluid ECF volume can be determined by substance that easily penetrate the capillary membrane and rapidly distributes through the ECF but do not crosses the cell membrane, such as some sodium chloride ions, inulin, mannitol, and raffinose. These are used to identify the extracellular fluid volume. The total body water or total body water volume can be determined by use of substances that distributed equally in all water component of the body, both intracellular and extracellular. For example, D2O, heavy water, and titrated water, and lipid soluble substances such as antipyrine. The intracellular fluid is determined as the difference between total body water volume and the extracellular fluid volume. The intracellular fluid volume including those blood cell is approximately calculated as 27 liters. Some traces are found or some traces are unbound or negligibly bounded to plasma or tissue protein. Their apparent volume of distribution is same as that of true volume of distribution. So that situation is different with most of the drugs which bounds to the protein, plasma protein, or extravascular tissues, or both. So some conditions which has been generalized regarding to the apparent volume of distribution of some drugs or such drugs are drugs which bound selectively to plasma protein or other blood components, example warfarin. So that is those that are less bounded to extravascular tissue have apparent volume of distribution smaller than their true volume of distribution. The volume of distribution of such drugs lies between the blood volume and the total body water volume. So between 6 to 42 liters. Example, warfarin has a volume of distribution of about 10 liters. The second condition is the drug which bound selectively to extravascular tissue, example chloroquine, that is those that are less bound to the blood components, which has apparent volume of distribution larger than their real volume of distribution. So the volume of distribution of such drugs is always greater than 42 liters. Whereas in the previous case it is around 10 liters, whereas in this condition it is around 42 liters, or the total body volume will be higher. Example, in case of chloroquine, the volume of distribution will be approximately 15,000 liters. So such drugs leaves the body slowly and generally more toxic than the drugs that do not distribute deeply into the blood tissues. So this is quite thing to be concerned of. So the factors that produce an alteration in binding of drug to blood component results in an increase in volume of distribution, and those that influences a drug binding to the extravascular component results in a decreasing of the volume of distribution. So other factors which influences the VD are the changes in tissue perfusion, permeability, changes in physicochemical characteristics of the drug, ionization example of it, or changes in body weight or age or several disease factors. So this is what of today's presentation. Hope you all understood the content, what has been discussed of. So to conclude it, do it whatever your mind says. You deserve a success if you keep on doing what is your interest is of. Thank you all. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your patient listening.